Hello and welcome to the Intro to Consulting series. My name is Kim Berg, and I previously worked in the Bain Brussels office, and in a couple months I'll be moving to the Bain & Company office in San Francisco. Over the course of this series, we're going to be taking you through every aspect that you need to know about consulting to get you ready to nail your interviews. To begin, what we're going to go through is learning a little bit more about the consulting industry, learning what it's like day-to-day to work as a consultant, and what it requires. In addition, we're going to go over what the recruiting process looks like for consulting. For example, what the recruiting timeline looks like for different geographies and how you need to stay on top of everything to be able to go through the recruiting process successfully. Lastly, we will go through the application process. So specifically, when you're turning in your application, what does an exceptional CV look like? What does an exceptional cover letter look like? And how to get your application through to be able to get into interviews. The first question you might be asking yourself is, well, what even is consulting? We know that consulting can seem really complicated at first, and honestly, a little bit vague. Based on a lot of the memes that we've seen about consulting in the past, we know that consulting can just seem like fancy Googling or just giving people advice all day. But I promise you that it's a little bit more specific than that. I'd like you to think of a consultant as a business doctor. A consultant comes into a business as an external force who's looking to be able to diagnose a problem and then treat the underlying issues, not the symptoms of the disease. To put that into more clear words, consultants are an external team called in to address a project within a specific scope. What that problem could be could range between many different things. For example, a consultant could be called in to solve some sort of organizational issue within the company. A consultant could be called in to determine why profits have been in decline and how to reverse this trend. A consultant could be called in to figure out how to digitize a specific part of the company. There's a very broad range of things that a consultant could be called in and projects that they could complete. However, the most important part about consulting is that consultants are an external team brought into a company to provide a third-party opinion through analysis, research, and a team of experts in order to solve a problem. As a consultant, the activities that you would be doing would change on the day-to-day. As an analyst or an associate on a consulting team, you would be doing activities such as leading interviews with clients to understand a little bit more about the client company and the problems that they're facing. You could also be creating financial models of running analysis in order to determine where the problems or the issues lie within the financials. You could also be conducting expert interview calls, leveraging the large networks of experts that consulting firms have access to gain information directly from the people that know it best. You would be taking this information and consolidating it into a PowerPoint format, which would be not only delivered to your project manager and communicating with your team, but also communicated with your client through generally weekly discussions and overall determining a strategy with your client and then presenting it to key stakeholders at the end of the project. Let's understand how this works in a real life context. For example, on one of my projects with Bain & Company, I was working with a client who was struggling to create a project management office that expanded across their entire organization. They were experiencing problems where every single project within their organization were using a different set of tools and didn't understand exactly how to use these tools throughout their project management process. So the way that we approached this problem was conducting interviews with many different project managers across the organization to understand what type of tools that they were using and the disadvantages and advantages of each of them. Then, after conducting and gathering all of this data, we did some analysis, understanding how these tools not only worked for the client, but also for some other organizations outside of the client. Then what we did is we took this analysis and we created our own recommendation. So working with my team, we were able to recommend a specific set of tools across each step of the project management lifecycle. so that the client had a standardized set of tools that project managers were able to understand and use in their projects to deliver more efficient and successful projects in the future. By providing an external focus, we were not only able to create an impact by standardizing the types of tools that were used across the entire organization, but our client was also very thankful that we were able to provide them a new insight on how their organization was operating as a whole. Without us as a team of external consultants, the client would never have known what tools were actually used within their organization and which tools worked the best. We were also able to bring in some of our own tools that we had experienced through other clients and on our projects, which they were then able to successfully implement on their projects in the future. That's it for today, and we can't wait to see you next time.